Welcome back, everybody, to the Leaders Talk Podcast, where we talk to leaders in every industry to see how they got to where they are today. And today, I have the pleasure of introducing Coach Smith. Coach Smith has been involved. He was the foundation of the STA tradition. What you see today of the STA football, all what you hear, he's a legend. But more importantly, like you know, we're going to find out what type of leader he is and ultimately the things that he learned in his role to becoming a leader. So we got to start off with the most important question that you're ever going to be asked. Coke or Pepsi?
Miller Lite.
Honest, I like that. I like that. Candy or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Favorite movie of all time?
Animal House.
Animal House. Okay. So now now that we got the most important questions out the way. By the way, guys, if you guys are seeing, this is the alumni hat that we just picked up, so gotta keep it different. So now we're gonna get on this timeline of you becoming who you are today. Your coaching throughout the skills, your trials, your tribulations, your upcoming, and what you really learned from that process. So we're gonna get on a 3-stage timeline. In this first segment, I kind of want to highlight a little bit about your childhood. What were some of the early memories that you cherished? What were some of the lessons that you learned from your parents?
Oh, excuse me. I was the only child growing up. I walked everywhere. I had a bike. We played softball, football in an old street that had trees with the roots. At the sidewalk, the road went up. Everybody's falling down and all that stuff. But once it snowed, I'm from Lafayette, Indiana, which is actually where Purdue University is. And it's really between Chicago and Indianapolis. So I went to high school in Central Catholic, and I ran track, played basketball and football. And when I was a senior, hurt my knee, and then in December, on a Sunday, my mom woke me up and said, "Listen, your dad doesn't feel well. We got to take him down to the hospital." That was about a 15-minute ride to the hospital, and we got him in his room, and my mom was a nurse in that same hospital, so we drove back out 15 minutes to the house, and the phone rang. I was down in the basement, and I picked up the phone, and my mom picked the one up in the kitchen, and there was a voice, and a woman said, "You need to come back to the hospital. Your husband has gone a bad way. You need to come back." So I don't think anything. So I go upstairs, and she's sitting in the kitchen table. I said, "Come on, we got to get going." She goes, "You don't know, he's dead." I said, "What do you mean?" "That's what they tell you." And he was dead. So I went a very bad path. Fighting, get drunk. So in February, and that would be in 1966, I was arrested for destruction of city property, and took me down. They were just quizzing me. I was 17 at that time. And
So you were still in high school. This was all happening during high school.
yes, and it was the second semester, basically. And I had a military ID, which is a federal felony. And I lost my glasses in the melee that when the police came. So I knew I had that, and I took it out of my pocket, and I looked around, and it was a squad room, so there was police all over the place. But I didn't see them looking at me, so I put it in my shorts. And about 30 seconds later, a couple guys picked me up and take me in a room and said, "Take your shorts off." And there it was. So they put me in jail. And that was a Friday night. And so I spent with 30 people in a big room with a toilet. No partitions, nothing, just the toilet. So on Sunday they came and said, there's somebody to pick you up. And I tried to call my mom because I had that phone call, never answered. So I, well, maybe she's figured out, you know. So I went out and they gave me now, just like you see TV, what was my watch and that's it, you know. So, so I went out and into the squad room. I got my stuff. I don't see nobody that I know parked around, so I went in the waiting room. And I looked over and it was my high school football coach.
Wow.
So his name was Coach LaRocca from Chicago, played at Purdue. So downtown Lafayette was, well, Wabash River, it was a low point, and there was hills all around out of the, where those stores and everything.
Yeah.
So he didn't say a word to me. Gets in the front seat, and there was 3 red lights going up the hill. So we're going up the first one, and it's green, and he slows down, turns yellow, stops at the red, and just backhands me. Next light, third one, same shit. Third one, on the top of the hill, same shit. So here I was. By the time I got home, I couldn't see out of my left eye. The door was open, he told me, and I just went into my room, and my mom didn't say a word to me. The next morning, I walked over to school, and then on Tuesday, in homeroom, we had the same thing, and there was if it went to the room that you were in, you would hear a click. It went click, click, and then somebody would talk, because they whatever.
Yeah.
It said, George Smith, go to Coach LaRocca's office. And now I'm going to get my butt beat some more. So I didn't say anything. He just comes in and he sits down. And I sit down. And he gives me a folder. And it's a letter from Butler offering me a football scholarship. He said, sign this. You're going to go visit this weekend. You're going to take an express bus, because I don't trust you, because it will go from bus stop here in Lafayette right to Indianapolis. So you can't pull your crap like sneaking around and everything else. So I committed there. I went to Butler, and I got hurt, and then I transferred back to Purdue, and I went into physical education. Got my degree in that. You couldn't even get that any now. They don't offer that in any schools.
Yeah.
But anyway, I knew a person down here, and so I called Pace, I called Chaminade, Gibbons, Curley, get St. Thomas,
Yeah.
and they wanted to start a wrestling program.
Yeah.
And I came here, and Father Kelly offered a job to be the head wrestling coach, assistant football coach, and assistant track coach.
Yeah.
And then I became the head football coach in 75.
Yeah. Jay, I wanted to highlight a little bit about that, a little bit. But what I'm pretty much getting from this early stage, from the early memories from in your high school era, that you had something bad happen to you, and you started slowly winding down a path that ultimately the coach saw you better than that. And do you think that somewhat enabled you to look at athletes like that? Like every time you saw an athlete going down the wrong path or not being the full potential, you kind of felt your story again. You were like, hold up, I could be what coach was to me, and then ultimately bring that student to be
Yeah, I believe that very true, and I've always believed that. Being the head coach for 34 years here, I called Coach LaRocca after every game in 34 years.
Every game. Did you ever forget one game? You're like, oh, I forgot.
No.
Always call him.
Yep, on Sunday.
Wow. And he was proud? He was always proud to hear you?
Well, he'd listen and he'd go, "What the hell did you do that for?" I don't know, Coach.
That's funny. So, highlighting, like you said, you came in and I wanted to highlight a little. When you came in, St. Thomas didn't even have a weight room, no?
No, we had about 720 students. We did not have a stadium. We didn't have any lights.
Yeah.
We did not have a weight room. In the gym there was I can't remember the thing. It was a multi-station thing. You could lift bench. You could do that. You went on a circle. It was over in the southwest corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, people called them jungle gyms, and I can't remember what they.
It wasn't nearly what it was today.
No, we didn't have a plate, a straight bar, nothing. We didn't have a wrestling room.
Yeah.
So I took over on the stage, unrolled out the mats, and that's where we practiced. And that was our wrestling room. And then the wrestling team did that, and then we built the Litzinger Center, which is now with PE and all those things, and the weight room on the top and the wrestling. And we opened the top of that in the weight room and wrestling room in 1982.
So you got in at 75 and you opened it at 82. So it wasn't until 7 years after you came that you.
We built that building.
Yeah.
So, but the other interesting part of that building, we did not have a permit in plumbing because everything was septic around here. So we'd have to build a gigantic, septic tank. We couldn't so anyway, long story. We contracted to put the locker rooms on the bottom, the girls' PE. That was varsity stuff. So one day, I get a phone call, and I met these guys out in the parking lot, and they offloaded a jackhammer and a cement saw that looked like a lawnmower. And I go, "When are you guys starting?" And we had to cut the concrete to put the pipes in.
That ain't easy.
No. So they marked everything out, and I spent the next 4 months cutting. I'd come in at 9 or 7 o'clock, do the AED stuff, and 10 o'clock I'd start.
So, kind of going back to so the reason that I ask you for that is because I think this whole thing, like this whole Leaders Talk podcast, is seeing some leaders weren't handed down something, and it's really starting. Like, you don't have to be handed down something to build up something, the vision that you see in your head. And I think that was beautiful that you, reading the articles, reading all the things, that you came in, they gave you an opportunity. You weren't even Coach Smith yet. You were just
The teacher, PE teacher.
you weren't what you were today, and somebody gave you that opportunity, and ultimately you took that opportunity and ran with it. But I say this because now St. Thomas, national, like it'll forever be a national school in academics and athletics.
I agree.
And I highlight that, the athletics and the academics too, because while I was reading the articles, I kept going back and I kept seeing the big, bold letter. The moral of why you did this was because of the opportunity you got going to the college when you were going down that path. And it was always, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but always as I read, I went back to the main theme was you wanting the students to excel, like get them in college. That was the main goal. It wasn't winning the state championship. Obviously that was important. That was part of the process, but the main goal was helping these students get to the next level. Is that Do you think that is what helped you build the STA?
Well, okay, what we did in 1975, the first year, I had a vision, just what you just said. Put these kids, give athletics and the academic part, give them a chance. Get them in school, no matter where it is. Get educated.
Yeah.
So I took pictures of every player, little things like this, and I wrote a biography of each player about his academics, his athletic situation, and I sent, I think it was 850 of these, and I'll show them when I see you again.
Yeah.
Okay. And we bulk mailed them out, and I heard back from about 500 colleges. So that became my mailing list, yes. And we put kids in that first year, Valley State, what state is that in?
Valley State?
Yeah.
Valley State.
Bismarck Junior College.
You're putting me on the spot. I don't know where the...
North Dakota.
North Dakota, okay. Was that like a trick question? Because I wouldn't...
Nobody knew that.
Nobody would know it.
So a lot of these kids went out that place. And they made it. They graduated. It's like River Falls, which is in Wisconsin. We put guys all over the place. And then, because of that book, the next year we put a guy in LSU, a guy in Kentucky.
That's a big gap from going to that to LSU.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, and my whole thing back then, how do we become like Maskelyne in Ohio? That was Jerry Faust, who became the head coach at Notre Dame. Didn't do a very good job, but how did we get our brand nationally?
Nationally.
So
What do you think, sorry, what do you think were some of the key ingredients to helping achieve that national brand?
we went to the National Football Coaches Convention, okay, which was the American Football Coaches Association. And we went to San Francisco, we went to Dallas, we went to Houston, San Diego, New Orleans, Nashville, all over these places. And we would get a room, and we would send boxes of the cans, football cans. It's not like you've probably never even seen these.
No.
Okay? These are 16 mil metal cans, and they had a half of each game. And we cut them up, offense and defensive. We had 2 projectors we shipped out to the hotels. And we had a room right next to, that was the film room. And we buy sandwiches and put beer and Coke and Pepsi. And that's where myself, I know so many guys, head coaches in college, we became a fixture of the program. The next thing, how do we get in with the brand uniforms? So Under Armour was just coming out, so we struck a deal with Nike, and now we are elite, one of the top 25 high schools in their program. The merchandise that we get from them is, I won't get now, but right now we get 2 uniforms free every other year, and shoes, all that type of stuff. And the next thing was to get on national TV.
So it was a process getting, it wasn't overnight.
No, it took a long time. You get your name around. And we became great friends with a lot of these guys. like the guy that Coach Roger was talking to, we saw, me and you saw each of them. That guy, he's 4 or 5 colleges. I know him, but will he ever be a head coach? I don't know. But once we got going, our first national game was 2008, and we played up in Cincinnati. We played Elder, which is a big Catholic school, and then that was a kickoff on ESPN.
Yeah.
And we've been from there. I mean, every year we play. Now this year we're playing St. John Bosco, yeah, which is a defending national championship. Yeah. So the athletic part of it, in '75, we started. That was my first spring practice. Okay. 25. So I had a call out, and there was 26 guys showed up for spring football.
25, you said?
26. So the next day, I'm still teaching PE. Yeah. So I bring all those freshmen and sophomores. It was, it was freshmen, sophomores. You had 2 years in PE.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a big meeting. I said, listen, if you guys, I'm putting it out personally, you guys are athletes. What are you doing? If you don't sign up for football, we're not having PE like you think. We're not playing football. We're not playing softball. We're not doing any of that. We're going to run a mile every day in PE. We're going to do calisthenics, etc. But at the end of the week, I had 60. And that's what we had on that team.
So I'm getting from this story is that it was a combination. Like if you had to put in a blender of what had this was a sense of urgency, a bunch of ingredients. The first one, a sense of urgency, being able to be resilient, and I'm guessing there was a lot of times where people said no to you when you reached out to coaches and you tried getting your national brand. They're like, nah, who are you guys? And they kind of push you.
And it was there was no ESPN, and then there were so many. You had local mop and pop TV shows. You could if you had a rabbit ears or something, you could pick it up maybe in Broward County, and stuff like that. I didn't want that. So as we went through the stories of guys, we had a breakout season in 1978. We went 10-1, and we should have won the state. But once we got rolling and seeing what the players, that they understood that we're here to promote you guys, but you need to promote yourself in the school building, the locker rooms, on the field. I am not going to promote hooligans or punks if you don't teach these teachers where you should, and take the X of that. And then the other thing was, I remember in 1981, Mike Irvin.
I actually want to. Actually, if you want, hold on that thought, because I have the next thing actually I was going to talk about.
Okay.
So, continue with that. Obviously, in the blend of the sense of urgency and the patience, but ultimately it was a vision. I think that was the biggest thing about it, because there was like how you said. I think I read an article once that you were talking about this, or Twan Russell was talking about you, and he said that this was like a snowball, that you're rolling up the hill, and it took 20 years to even get it to where anywhere near where it is today. And then obviously today it is where it is. But I think that's the biggest thing that we could take from this story, is that it's a sense of urgency, a sense of vision, a sense of resilience, a sense of always moving forward. But ultimately, like that, just having your vision and sticking to it. But in the result, and now moving on to the next transition, the second end of this stage. So we talked about your childhood, the high school, getting the coaching, and now we're talking about building up STA. So STA is starting to get its name. And you had big guys come through here. Like you said, Michael Irvin, Hall of Famer. You had Twan Russell that you coached. There was countless other NFL athletes. And STA, just to put it in perspective, has over 40 NFL players in the league right now that it's put out. And above all that, countless athletes ultimately go to college and be successful after that. What was it that took those guys that made it to the NFL, the Michael Irvins, the big name guys, to get to that next level? What were some of the qualities that that they had?
Well, Michael, in '81, he didn't see when he transferred here from Piper. Okay, back then in the state of Florida, if you transferred from a public school to a private school, the principal at the public school has to sign off. The principal at Piper wouldn't sign off. He never played a damn football, didn't shot a basketball, didn't run track at all to his junior year. At all. He was ineligible. So here he comes, '81, and right before we started practice in August, I saw Mike, and Walter, his dad, was a preacher, and he was a roofer. And then on the weekends, he had a church up in Georgia, right across the Florida-Georgia game, and he was a preacher there. So anyway, he was in the hospital, and I went down to see him. He was an older man, you know, he was an old guy. And he couldn't talk, and he just said, "Hey, you need to take care of Michael." That's what he whispered me. He died the next day. Michael disappeared. Couldn't find him. He lived right over here by Dillard. We found him right up on Sunrise Boulevard in a park, sitting there on a swing set. He probably could have been there, I don't know, three days. So he came back, tremendous deal, had a great career, all-state, all-American football, all-state in basketball, and he went to the state track meet in one event. What was the event? Shot put.
Shot put.
Shot put.
Oh, the shot put.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's crazy. I didn't know.
Oh, everybody thought, no, he was a 400-meter runner. No, he was a shot putter.
Wow. I thought he was like you said, he was a 400-meter. Or...
He was, you know, but he was one of the best athletes ever. We had Steph Humphreys was written up back in the late 90, 99, no, I'm sorry. Anyway, in the 80s, in Sports Illustrated.
So what were ultimately some of the, if you had to break down 4 qualities that all these NFL guys that made it, what were some of the 4 qualities that they had in common?
Tough, smart, wanted to be educated. And when I say education, in the classroom, but also in the athletic field. How do I play this? How do I study for this physics test? They want to be educated. Now with a lot of things change so much with media, those guys back, just for example, for years, I had a German Shepherd, and she was big, female, nasty, but the biggest sissy in the world. So we'd go to church early on Sunday.
The dog would go?
No, the dog.
Oh.
Didn't bark at all, whatever. So I come out, and there was a card stuffed in the door. I open it. One sign, it said, "Merry Christmas, Coach, love you." That was all it said. The next year, same thing happened. The third year, I took fishing line and put it through a pie pan, aluminum, right? And then underneath the bushes, another pie pan with rocks. So if he pulled whoever it was, that the dog would wake up and bark. That's what I thought. Come out, there's the card. And I look, cookies are gone. Pie pans are gone. But the pie pan with the rocks was still there. So I never figured out who this was. So we're playing up in Orlando, and the kid's name was Mark Williams. He played at Oklahoma State and Central Florida. So I had to go pick up the passes. I had to go to the stadium. So he drove me. So we were at Bishop Moore, and so he's dropping me off. I go, hey, by the way, Coach, do you like Christy cards, Christmas cards? He started laughing. He finally told me.
He told.
So
But you ran into him by accident,
no.
or you meant to see him when you went up?
Oh yeah, I needed a car to get from Bishop Moore to the stadium.
Yeah.
And so he was driving me around because the buses were parked back there because we were having dinner before the game.
Yeah.
So
So now that we kind of see the legacy pretty much, because when you hear STA and you hear nationally, it's a legacy. Like you really do, and you feel it not only walking through the hallways, but the accomplishments, and then you just feel the tradition, you feel the spirit, you feel the grit, you feel like, and some people look at it and it looks like I remember me, because I transferred in here sophomore year, and I came from Barber Goman, a school in Miami Lakes.
That's right. I know. I remember this. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to Barber Goman, and when I came in, St. Thomas to me was like, I had that picture of like, there was such the big dog that it was like intimidating to even like, but I also felt that sense of like, there's something really going. It's not just a football program. It's not just, oh, there's a bunch of star athletes. No, it's like a tradition. And you see it because you could say, oh, a good football thing, 2 years and won state championship back to back, and then it's kind of off. No, it's like 50 years of legacy NFL players to come. So there's a method behind it that ultimately is producing such excellence. So what do you think, kind of if you had to look back and reflect on everything, what was that, the ultimate method in building such an excellent program?
Well, I think one of the keys, and obviously, if you don't have the administrators behind you, you're doomed. You can't succeed. Sister John here was many years, right? Father Kelly, he came a year before me. I think Mr. Aloma, Mrs. Aloma, Tina Jones, they've contributed. But the other thing, you know what it is? People. After COVID, right? Look at the stew body at a football game. It's ridiculous. They're packed.
Yeah.
Packed. Joke. Crazy. But those are the people here. And the other thing, when you walk the hallways, I am thinking over in 52 years, I have never, ever come across a fight in the hallways.
Never, ever.
I had a couple in the PE, because we're assholes, like a game or argument or whatever. Nobody got hurt. But never in the hallway. How's that possible? There's over 2,000 kids in this place. That made me, I saw that in the couple of years I was here. I said, this is a good place, man. The kids, we got assholes. We know that. We're always going to have that. But it's not. I look at this as a 90 to 10% deal. I look at a football team this way too. 90% of your guys are the best people. They do the right things. They're good players. 10% are goofballs. They don't like discipline. They blah, blah, blah. But out of those 10%, 90% of your time, you have to work with those 10% to get to the 90%.
It's a powerful expression. Very vivid. Out of the 100% of the students, or let's say you're a CEO of a company and you have 100 employees, 90 of them are going to be good.
Great.
10% of them are going to be goofballs. But your time, 90% of your time has to go towards the 10%.
Absolutely.
Very wise. Yeah. So I'm gonna. That's like, is going to stick to me. So now wrapping it all up, I'm pretty sure you guys have gotten to see the grit and hearing all the stories, hearing the reflection of how you built the STA, but ultimately how you became a great and notable leader. And the proof is in the results. You have countless awards for national coach, best coach, high school coach, state championships, NFL player. Like, it's all there. So the proof is in the progress. The proof is in how you speak. The proof is in everything. So now to wrap it all up, the final message to that person listening out there, maybe the coach, maybe a leader, maybe a entrepreneur, maybe the athlete that is going kind of what you went through, that was going down the wrong path but wants something better, but kind of doesn't have anybody, and you may be that shed of light to them. What's your advice to that person that wants that shed of light to actually achieving their vision?
I think if you want to be good in what you do, be it athletic or whatever, you have to remember one thing. You can't do it yourself. You can't be totally you. You have to get the people you're around, help them, they're going to help you. Everybody needs that. See a lot of guys, not a lot of guys, part of that 10% guys, they don't talk to anybody. They don't get it. They're goofballs. You need to have people that are going to be on your side and help you and make sure that they know that you're going to be there for them if they need that. People.
That's the biggest thing that you went. You did it for people. The people helped you bring here.
Yeah, that's your job. You know, you get a tremendous, I think that these guys, I look at the college conferences, guys that are commissioners like the Big Ten and those people. Some of those guys are unbelievable leaders, but they're also great communicators.
Yeah. So it's a balance of that. Being able to communicate, being able to see the vision, but ultimately having people around you.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing that you can see in multiple company success stories, athletic stories. It's always about understanding where your weaknesses lie and getting people that are strong and where your weakness is, and doubling down on being like, okay, I know I can't do this to other people, so I'm going to put trust in other people and bring them in together. Have them believe in the vision that I see.
Yeah.
So I think wrapping it up, I hope you guys made it to the end. And if you did, hope you guys truly enjoyed it. You have anything else you want to leave on with?
Actually, the answer to the question is not Miller Lite. It's just Coke.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Well, really, I lied. It's Miller Lite. So anyway.
We had to keep it PG, so he went back and put it to the Coke. But you know me, I haven't said it yet, but I'm Team Coke, so we'll leave it at that. But thank you guys so much for coming to the end. I truly hope you guys enjoyed it and we're able to see the grit, the adversity, the challenges, and ultimately the success of this story. And hopefully you guys left off with something. So hope you.
One more thing. All right. In a public eye that I've been for many years, I've been interviewed with national magazines, etc., etc. This young man right here is a really, really sharp person, and he's a great dude. And if you guys see this, make sure you know who this guy is. Tell him who you are.
My name is Jacob Giron.
Spell the last name.
Giron.
There you go. Call him.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming to him. See you on the next one.